This podcast is powered by the pros at Paschal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPaschal.com.
So, Scott, we got some changes this weekend. They will not play Friday's scheduled game today. They'll play it tomorrow. If you have Friday tickets, you get in both games tomorrow. If you got Saturday tickets, you're kind of out of luck. They're supposed to get you some tickets later on today. But when you remember delays, well, how did that kind of change the thinking and game plan from Norm? And how do you think that changes the perspective from Dave Van Horn?
Well, the biggest thing is you just have to get to the park earlier. You change your time schedule when you eat in the morning, you know, if you're going to eat anything between the games. Back when I played, we played doubleheaders all the time. I mean, every midweek game was a doubleheader. You're getting to the field at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. You don't get out of there till dark because we didn't have lights. So things have changed now, and playing a doubleheader, they act like is a big burden when, you know, I hate to say back in the day, but back in the day, that was just a normal day.
Just accustomed to it. Now, we've seen a lot of pitchers to this point. Still waiting on guys like Dylan Carter and Bybee and Dietz. Is there a pitcher that you haven't seen a lot of, or one of those guys that have been injured or trying to come back from mononucleosis that you're really excited to see this spring?
Bybee is one I'm really anxious to see, and I think everybody's kind of waiting because he was blown up to be pretty much the fourth starter just from what he showed, you know, early in the fall and the way he threw the ball and his potential and his accolades coming in. So Bobby is somebody I can't wait to see get on the mound and see if he produces as advertised.
Scott Tabor with us here on the Morning Rush. Our visit brought to you by Alumni Hall. Scott, I want to ask you about the midweek game. Arkansas played UCA, an in-state opponent. You felt like it was going to be a tough game going in, and it lived up to that. 9-7 the final. Arkansas had to scrap and had an explosive 7-run inning. What's the value in having, as we head into this McNeese State series this weekend, you got one with Oral Roberts, and then you begin SEC play. I mean, Arkansas had some tough games at Arlington, but having some games here heading into SEC play, what's the value of having to scrap for 9 innings for this team to get them ready for the conference slate ahead?
I think the value is huge. It's as if a pitcher goes in and everything he throws is a strike and nobody touches him the whole game. You get kind of used to that happening. As a team, if you play a game and you have to scrap, you know, you may have a comfortable lead early and they start coming back, things get a little tense because things are tense from first inning through the ninth inning in the SEC. You never say, "Oh, we got them now," because teams are explosive. You know, we're explosive. I think something that it really, really shows, and I could see this happening, is Van Horn kind of resorting back to old Van Horn and producing runs rather than waiting for the big ball, because those just aren't happening. You know, they're just not happening the way everybody thinks they should. So I could see him changing the way he does things a little bit, a little more hit and run, a little more button guys over. Getting the guy on second base with less than 2 outs and then try to hit him in. So I think playing tight games is telling him, you know, I need to change some things up.
Well, Hiva Aloy had a grand slam in that game. He's a guy that's been struggling at the plate. He's made some good contact, but with a good wind blowing out to left center, he got the ball out of the park to clear the bases. Is this something that could spark him? He's averaging 200 coming out of that game and heading into this weekend. Is that something that could be a kind of a flint for this, or is what do you expect from Aloy moving forward?
Well, there's a difference between a 200 ground balls and strikeouts to a 200 line drives at guys all over the field, and I think his 200 is a hard 200, a very loud 200, and it's hard to tell a kid, hey, just keep swinging. You know, eventually they'll fall, and you have 5 or 6 in a row go right to somebody. So hitting one out of the park, a grand slam's fantastic, and it sparked the team. And so those little things add up, and I think he's going to be on track. I don't think he ever went away. He just didn't show up the way everybody thought he would early, and I think a lot of it's just because he wasn't hitting them where they ain't, and that's the best ball you can hit.
Scott Tabor with us via Alumni Hall. Scott, last non-conference series this weekend. I know you played in a different conference back in the old Southwest Conference days, but what kind of transition do you remember maybe being upped, maybe just in that locker room and then that dugout transitioning from the last non-conference weekend series to conference play starting up?
Well, I look at it a little bit different. As a pitcher, you didn't really look at things. I didn't look at things different. You know, the strike zone's the same. You know, the plate's the same width. It's 60 feet 6 inches to home plate. And as a pitcher, you don't you don't really ramp up. You're not going to throw it harder than you can. You're not going to try harder because you better be trying hard every pitch. Everything has to be precise. I think it's more of a team thing. I think it's more of a coaching thing. These games are more important because they count against your conference record, but you go into every series trying to do the same things that you've been practicing and that you've been working on and that you've been having these high leverage games and high leverage pitching situations. Those are all good things to get ready for conference because they count heavier. So it's an overall attitude. It's not a individual player like they're going to ramp it up and all of a sudden start trying. So it's an overall feeling, and I think, like I said, I think producing runs, trying to steal some runs from the other team here and there, where you're not waiting for the big inning all the time. I think those are the things that'll change.
So you guys were just talking about Vahiba Lloyd there. I also want to talk about another Hawaii guy, and that's Nolan Souza. Played actually for Rick Nomera, who's the other Hawaiian that played for Arkansas. How much is he going to, given Dave Van Horn, to think about the infield the way he's been hitting the ball?
If you hit, you'll play. And he's got some guys that are starting to hit, and he's got to find a place to play them. You can't take bats out of the lineup because, the other guy's supposed to be a really good hitter. So it's doing what you're supposed to do versus what you think you can do, and he's going to have to play him. He's going to have to find a place to play him.
As you've watched the last few games, Arkansas is deep at catcher. Parker Rowland, Helfrich, White. Any of those guys you think, and I know they're all getting some time. Hudson White came in as a pinch hitter and finished out the game on Tuesday. None of them are setting the world on fire from the plate, and I know Dave wanted to have a hitting catcher, but are you seeing anything defensively that makes one, in your mind, as a former pitcher, stand out? Is there any separation there, I guess is what I'm asking?
Well, not since I'm not throwing to him, you can't really get comfortable with him. You get comfortable with a catcher the way he calls a game, and they let them call the game, which I think is fantastic. So I haven't really seen anything that sticks out to where one guy is head and shoulders above the other guys. And, you can be deep at catcher, but if you're deep with greatness, that's one thing. If you're deep with, they're all kind of interchangeable. So if they're all interchangeable, that's not always a good thing. You need to have one guy that's going to step up and be the guy. And if he's struggling with the bat a little bit, then you can bring somebody else in and not really have a fall off. But I'd like to see somebody really, really take the bull by the horns and step up and not only hit the ball, but block the ball, call good games, and throw guys down to second base. Every coach would love to have that.
I guess the defensive side of it should be a given, and anything extra at the plate's kind of a bonus, right?
Yeah, it's not so much stepping up and doing better. They're trying to. It's almost like they're trying not to mess up, And if you're trying not to mess up, you're not going to excel. So I think maybe they'll loosen up a little bit. That's hard to tell. Everybody's different. I think they handle the pitchers pretty well. You don't see very many times that they get crossed up, and their signs are good. I guess with I guess they use a wristband now, so giving signals aren't as big of a deal.
Yeah, I'm ready to see Stovall back in this lineup, him healthy, and kind of see how Dave handles that infield. You assume Holt goes to third. You assume that Lloyd and McLaughlin stay in their spots, but I'll be interested to see how this lineup looks when he returns.
It's all going to be based on how he produces when he comes back, because he's going to put him in there, and somebody's going to have to, with a good attitude, take a seat because he's a proven entity. And back when I played with Norm, he'd scratch his head, who they're not going to put in. I need somebody else to step up and be a good player. Now they've got the problem of which good hitter am I going to take out of the lineup? Which good player am I going to move? And, you want to keep them happy. So you've got a good problem to have, but you want to see him really get in there and produce.
Scott, you bring up Norm. We were joking about coaching cliches earlier. What was the phrase, and again, we're on FCC restricted airwaves, so maybe can't say everything, but what was the phrase you remember that Coach DeBryan used to say back in the day?
Yeah, the first phrase I ever remember hearing him say, and it's just the way he was. He's sitting there and he's got his head, he's looking at his notebook and he's scratching his head with his pen, and he's looking around and he's walking back and forth, and he looks at me one time and he goes, "Dave, I don't know, And I looked at him and I said, "Yes, sir. No, sir. I don't know what to say." And that was his circle around when he couldn't really, he was kind of silly as it is. I don't know, And I go, "Yes, sir. I don't know. No, sir. Yes, sir." So, I don't know. He had a lot of them that, most of them you couldn't say.
Yeah. Saw a coach the other day at an event at Sterling Bank that honored our friend Dean Weber, and Coach looked great. Looked great as always. So it was good to see him out and about.
The man's amazing. He never changes. You know, he looked that way back in the 70s. So he's a pretty sharp guy.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.